even though Meghan had let it be known she wanted a home birth, it was probably very realistic that her first child at 37, it was going to be born in hospital.
The certificate lists the private...
What you're about to hear isn't just another internet conspiracy. It's not a TikTok theory gone viral or a forgotten Reddit thread from 2019. No, this story has crossed the line from speculation to full-blown global scrutiny, and it's igniting flames in Buckingham Palace, Hollywood, and every corner of the internet in between.
So at the time, Archie Mountbatten Windsor was born May 6, 2019. And this was surrounded by controversy, largely to the unconventional decision.
Because right now, Meghan Markle is facing a scandal unlike anything the modern monarchy has ever seen, and she's doing it in total silence. For years, rumors swirled about the mysterious circumstances surrounding the birth of Prince Archie and Princess Lilibet. The foldable baby bump, the vanishing pregnancy belly, the lack of hospital photos. These were dismissed as cruel conspiracies, offensive guesses, and royal gossip at its worst. Until now. A woman known only as DL, previously anonymous, now stepping into the spotlight, claims she was the real surrogate for both of Meghan and Harry's children. Not a donor, not a behind-the-scenes helper, but the actual contracted, medically verified surrogate kept under wraps by tight NDAs and elite legal counsel. And she's not just talking, she's got documents, emails, hospital logs, financial records, and a single explosive demand that could shake the House of Windsor to its foundation. A DNA test. But what's more disturbing than the claim itself is how Meghan and Harry are reacting. No rebuttal, no press conference, no carefully worded denial, just silence. A kind of silence that doesn't just raise eyebrows, it screams. Loudly. This isn't just another Meghan and Harry headline. If DL's story checks out, it could rewrite royal succession law, destroy the Sussex brand, and permanently damage the monarchy's legacy. And yet, no one is talking. Until now. Because today we're breaking down exactly what DL claims, the receipts she's bringing, and why Meghan's silence could be the most dangerous move of her entire career. And trust me, this story, it's just getting started.
Been pregnant for way too long. I tell the DJ turn it off.
If she a baby mama,
Go ahead.
she gon' do that baby mama.
Work.
She gon' put
She emerged seemingly out of nowhere, a woman known only by her initials, DL. For years, her name never surfaced, her story never told. She was, as she puts it, a ghost in someone else's narrative. Until now. In a move that has blindsided both the royal family and media watchdogs, DL has stepped forward with a jaw-dropping claim that she was the surrogate for both of Meghan Markle and Prince Harry's children, Archie and Lilibet. And she's not simply suggesting it, she's coming armed with what she calls proof. Not vague anecdotes or blurry images, but hard documentation, hospital records, financial ledgers, emails from Meghan's legal team, even signed NDA agreements and internal correspondence from a California-based surrogacy agency.
Quite confused. Shortly before 2 p.m. yesterday, Buckingham Palace announced that Meghan had gone into labour. Then, 40 minutes later...
According to DL, the arrangement was clinical, discreet, and highly controlled. She says she was carefully selected by an exclusive agency, kept in near total isolation throughout both pregnancies, and bound by a confidentiality contract so strict it even outlined how she should interact with healthcare providers. She claims she was instructed to avoid outside contact. No visits from friends, no public photos, and certainly no trace on social media. And here's where it gets even more unsettling. DL says this arrangement wasn't just for privacy, it was to erase her. From the moment Lilibet was born, communication from Meghan's team stopped entirely. No follow-ups, no acknowledgement, not even a thank you. She says she was discarded like an object, and that the emotional toll was overwhelming. But instead of disappearing, she started documenting everything, every appointment, every email, every payment. She knew in her words that one day, the truth would matter. And now, with the story of Archie and Lilibet still wrapped in secrecy, she's had enough. DL is done hiding. She's released excerpts from what she says are confidential hospital forms, some blurred for privacy, others showing names redacted. She's willing to testify under oath. And she's already handed copies of her documents to legal representatives in both the US and the UK, just in case anything happens to her or she's legally silenced. And then there's the NDA. Most people would be afraid to breach it, but DL claims Meghan's team already violated their end of the agreement by cutting her off and failing to provide contracted postnatal care. And under US law, that could make parts of the NDA invalid, freeing DL to tell her side publicly. This isn't a woman seeking clout. She's not chasing paparazzi or starting a tabloid blog. She's calm, composed, and most dangerously, she's organized. And according to DL, she's only just getting started. You'd expect someone facing allegations this explosive to leap into action, right? Release a statement, call in the legal team, or at the very least, post a cryptic quote on Instagram like she's done so many times before. But this time, Meghan Markle has vanished into the fog. No tweets, no PR rebuttal, no staged family photos to soften the noise. Just an eerie, calculated silence that's beginning to feel less like dignity and more like damage control. And that silence is deafening. Sources close to Meghan's inner circle say her legal team has gone into overdrive, not to respond directly to the claims, but to try and stop them from being broadcast. Multiple media outlets that had pre-scheduled interviews with DL reportedly received aggressive cease and desist notices. The message, back off or face legal consequences. But DL isn't intimidated. She says she's seen it all before. The legal intimidation, the passive-aggressive threats. And this time, she's calling Meghan's bluff. DL has made it clear. She's ready to face the cameras, the lawyers, and even the courtroom, if that's what it takes to be heard. And while Meghan is nowhere to be seen, her legal team is reportedly working behind the scenes to buy time. Insiders say preliminary injunctions have been filed in California to delay the public release of any documentation DL holds. Meanwhile, Meghan's lawyers have allegedly contacted at least 3 major media networks with veiled legal threats, warning them not to proceed with anything that could damage the Duchess's reputation. But here's the problem. The absence of Meghan's voice isn't cooling the fire. It's pouring gasoline on it. Her previous strategies, quick lawsuits, defamation claims, Oprah interviews, have been replaced with total radio silence. No rebuttals, no denials, no controlled media narratives, just shadows where answers should be. And in today's media landscape, that kind of silence doesn't protect you. It convicts you. Because as the allegations spread and public pressure builds, the longer Meghan remains quiet, the more believable DL becomes. And Meghan's silence, it's starting to feel less like grace and more like fear. But DL isn't just speaking out. She's issuing a direct challenge, and it's one the royal couple can't ignore forever. DL isn't just telling her story, she's daring Meghan and Harry to prove her wrong. In a bold and very public statement, DL has demanded a full DNA test involving herself, Meghan, Harry, and both children, Archie and Lilibet. Her only condition, the test must be conducted by an independent third party, far removed from palace doctors, Sussex advisors, or celebrity-affiliated labs. No royal influence, no Hollywood favors, just the truth under clinical conditions. And that challenge has rattled more than just social media. Legal experts across the UK and US are buzzing about what it would mean if Harry and Meghan decline. Because here's the thing. If their children are biologically theirs and born without surrogate involvement, then this is the perfect moment to put every rumor to rest. So why stall? Why hasn't the Sussex camp leapt at the chance to shut down the speculation once and for all? According to insiders, the Sussex legal team isn't just stalling, they're scrambling. DL's attorneys claim their client has already sent formal DNA consent notices to both Meghan and Harry's representatives, and received no response. In legal circles, silence in the face of a challenge that simple is rarely seen as strength. It's seen as avoidance. And the public is noticing. Polls are shifting, hashtags are trending. Even major outlets that once fiercely protected the Sussex narrative are now airing serious discussions about legitimacy and succession. DL, on the other hand, is doubling down. She says she's ready. Her legal team has secured the lab. Her documents are already with advisors. She's not hiding, she's waiting. But what are Meghan and Harry doing? According to multiple royal watchers, they've gone completely off script. No scheduled appearances, no behind-the-scenes PR spin. Just legal threats, lockdown mode, and a growing sense of unease inside their Montecito estate. And that brings us to the scariest part of all. For Meghan and Harry, the DNA challenge isn't just about disproving DL's claim, it's about everything that test could expose. Paper trails, agency contracts, medical timelines. In other words, receipts. And if those receipts lead where many fear they might, we're not just talking about scandal, we're talking about the future of the monarchy itself. It started with whispers, forum threads, TikTok theories, YouTube compilations, old clips resurfacing, the infamous folding belly video, the disappearing bump. For years, these were brushed off as conspiracy-fueled noise, buried beneath glossy press interviews and palace-approved statements. But now, the internet is wide awake, and it's not laughing anymore. Social media has entered forensic mode. Armchair detectives are dissecting timelines, comparing paparazzi shots with archived footage, and analyzing the most minute details of Meghan's pregnancy appearances. From the baby bump that seemed to collapse during a TV interview to the oddly timed hospital announcement that didn't match flight logs, every anomaly is being put under the microscope. And this time, they've got momentum. The moment DL stepped forward, what once sounded like online speculation suddenly gained the scent of legitimacy. Posts that were once mocked are now going viral. Threads dismissed as crazy are being reshared by mainstream accounts. Influencers who once praised Meghan's authenticity are quietly deleting old posts. And fans who defended the Sussexes through every scandal are asking a terrifying question out loud. What if it was all staged? Even journalists once sympathetic to Meghan's narrative are changing their tone. Several prominent royal commentators, previously cautious, even defensive, are now publicly admitting that the optics surrounding her pregnancies never quite made sense. And then there's the numbers. Recent polling in the UK shows a staggering drop in public trust for the Sussexes. Meghan's approval rating, which once rivaled Princess Diana's in certain age brackets, has plunged to its lowest point since the couple's departure from royal duties. Even in the US, where they've historically enjoyed stronger support, approval has dipped below 40%. And as the court of public opinion starts to turn, the silence from Meghan's camp becomes harder to justify. Because in 2025, where every moment is captured, archived, and analyzed, authenticity is currency. And the minute people sense you've lied, that currency vanishes. But as bad as social media backlash may be, it pales in comparison to what's at stake next. The royal bloodline itself. This isn't just about public image. This is about protocol, law, and the unshakable foundation the monarchy has rested on for centuries. Lineage. Because if DL's claims are true, and Meghan never gave birth to Archie or Lilibet, then we're not just dealing with a PR crisis. We're facing a potential constitutional catastrophe. At the heart of the issue lies an obscure but powerful phrase in the letter's patent of 1917, issued by King George V. That royal decree outlines who may be called a prince or princess, and it specifically requires that a child be lawfully born of the body. Let that sink in. Not just lawfully born of the body. And here's the chilling part. If Meghan didn't give birth to the children herself, and if that fact was knowingly hidden, it could mean that Archie and Lilibet's princely titles were obtained under false pretenses. Legal scholars are already wrestling with questions no one ever thought would be relevant in the 21st century. Can heirs born via undisclosed surrogacy still hold royal titles? Does a concealed surrogacy invalidate their place in the line of succession? And perhaps most controversially, if the palace knew, were they complicit? Because if there was even quiet awareness within the monarchy, even a whisper behind the gates of Buckingham Palace, that Meghan used a surrogate and it was never disclosed to the public, that could trigger a full-scale constitutional review of the children's standing.
What she would do is actually to keep Harry jumping about something like that, you know. She would have things where she didn't like it and tell him that make his life very difficult, and he can't cope with her, so he just tries to do.
Insiders say King Charles's senior advisors have already begun combing through legal documents and historical precedents related to royal births. Quiet meetings are allegedly taking place behind palace walls, with advisors weighing the implications of what could happen if DNA evidence proves DL's claims. And while the monarchy has survived divorces, affairs, abdications, and even scandalous tapes, this is different, because at its core, the British monarchy is about tradition, bloodlines, ancestry, The illusion of perfection passed from one generation to the next. A secret surrogate breaks that illusion in ways the institution may never recover from. If DL's story is true, the titles of Archie and Lilibet may not just be symbolically at risk, they could be legally stripped, frozen, or revoked altogether. And as royal lawyers brace for the unthinkable, Meghan's Hollywood empire is starting to crumble right alongside it. It was supposed to be Meghan Markle's comeback year. After months of silence and the fallout from her and Harry's media deals, 2025 was going to be her redemption arc. A bold re-entry into the spotlight with fresh business ventures, new media partnerships, and lifestyle products set to launch under the Archie umbrella. Instead, those plans are in flames. Behind the scenes, corporate partners are backing away, quietly but decisively. One major wine distributor, once slated to support Meghan's upcoming lifestyle brand, reportedly pulled out last minute, citing vague brand safety concerns. Translation: this scandal is toxic, and no one in the luxury or wellness world wants to be associated with it. The dominoes don't stop there. Netflix executives are said to be reassessing the Harry and Meghan documentary, particularly segments that touch on family history and the births of their children. According to an anonymous insider, the concern isn't just PR, it's liability. If Meghan misrepresented how her children were born, even subtly, it could put Netflix in the crosshairs of a misrepresentation controversy they didn't sign up for. And then there's Spotify. The company famously cut ties with the Sussexes in 2023 after a disappointing return on their podcasting deal. Now, former executives are openly grateful they parted ways when they did. One ex-staffer reportedly joked off record, "We dodged a moon bump-sized bullet." But it's not just corporations distancing themselves. People are. A-list allies who once rallied behind Meghan, who posted quotes, shared her podcast clips, and praised her as a modern Diana, have gone silent. Completely. Even Oprah Winfrey, who handed Meghan and Harry their most powerful platform in 2021 during the explosive tell-all interview, has made no public comment on DL's claims. No tweet, no podcast, no quote. And that silence, it speaks volumes. Because if Oprah was misled, knowingly or not, during that interview, it wouldn't just be embarrassing. It would be a public relations disaster for one of the most powerful voices in media. That's the danger of this scandal. It's not isolated. It's reaching into every room Meghan and Harry have walked into since they left the royal family. Every deal, every partnership, every glowing endorsement, now shadowed by the possibility that the very foundation of their story might not be real. And what triggered this avalanche? According to DL, it was never about fame. It was about betrayal. And the cover-up she says followed was colder than anyone expected. DL says she didn't step forward out of revenge. She stepped forward because of what happened after the births, when, in her words, she was discarded like a vessel. According to DL, the agreement she had with Meghan's team was clear. She would remain anonymous, she would receive compensation, and she would be provided follow-up care, both medical and emotional, after the birth of each child. But after Lilibet was born, DL says everything changed. The communication stopped, emails went unanswered, the support team she had been working with, from housing to healthcare, disappeared. She says she was suddenly cut off, with no access to the resources that had been promised. And then, something more alarming happened. She started checking her medical documentation and realized her name was missing. DL claims Meghan's legal team worked behind the scenes to scrub her existence from every official record tied to the births. In internal documents from the surrogacy agency and hospitals, her name was allegedly replaced with internal code names or blank entries. She says they were trying to make her legally invisible, but they missed some things. DL says she retained original documentation, emails, scanned hospital logs, correspondence between Meghan's handlers and the agency, and even copies of the NDA with digital timestamps. Some were printed, others she saved in encrypted cloud storage. She says she held onto them not because she planned to go public, but because she no longer trusted that her part in this would ever be acknowledged. And here's the twist. DL says she was willing to stay silent until her health deteriorated. She developed postpartum preeclampsia after Lilibet's birth, a serious condition requiring follow-up care. But because Meghan's team allegedly cut ties, DL was left to fend for herself, emotionally shattered, physically struggling, and legally silenced. That, she says, was the breaking point. Her lawyers now argue that Meghan's team violated the agreement first, rendering sections of the NDA potentially unenforceable under California law. And if that holds in court, every record DL possesses could become public evidence. And that's exactly what Meghan's legal team appears most afraid of. Because according to sources behind closed doors, they're no longer asking if DL will go public. They're preparing for when. And DL, she's not backing down. But while Meghan retreats behind legal walls, Harry's behavior is raising questions of its own. While Meghan remains silent, buried behind legal teams and blackout strategies, Harry is unraveling, and sources say it's happening fast. Behind the walls of the Sussex's Montecito estate, staff members describe the atmosphere as tense, fractured, and bordering on unbearable. According to insiders, household aides have been told not to speak above a whisper. Eye contact is avoided. Meetings are rare, and when they do happen, they're brief, cold, and filled with uncertainty. Several longtime employees, people once considered inner circle loyalists, have reportedly taken extended leave or quit altogether. But the most troubling reports don't come from the staff. They come from Harry's behavior. Neighbors say he's been seen walking the perimeter of their estate at strange hours, often alone, without security detail, pacing in silence, muttering to himself, sometimes stopping to stare at nothing for long periods. One even claimed Harry looked lost, like someone replaying a nightmare they can't escape. Insiders say his biggest fear isn't legal. It's personal. He's terrified that one day, Archie and Lilibet will read these headlines, that they'll find the court records, that they'll watch the interviews and question why their births were surrounded in silence, secrets, and speculation. And worst of all, that they'll believe DL before they believe him. Because if DL's story is proven true, and Harry knowingly participated in presenting a false narrative, then everything he built his post-royal identity on collapses. The image of the wounded soldier escaping a rigid institution to build a life of truth and transparency? Gone. He'll no longer be seen as the victim. He'll be seen as the one who helped script the lie. And the palace? They're watching closely. While Buckingham Palace continues to issue the usual no comment to public inquiries, insiders say the silence is a facade. Discussions are reportedly happening behind closed doors. Legal teams have been instructed to review succession statutes. Royal advisors are said to be combing through the 1917 letters patent, looking for loopholes. Because if this situation detonates, they'll need to act fast, not just to protect the family, but to preserve the crown. And as DL prepares for a primetime interview, Meghan's silence has transformed from strategy to surrender. It started with a woman and a secret, and now it's threatening to upend the world's most famous family. DL has not disappeared into the shadows like many expected. In fact, she's gaining momentum. Multiple sources confirm she's scheduled for a primetime interview within the next 2 weeks, a sit-down expected to draw millions of viewers globally. And she's not coming empty-handed. She's already turned over key documents to international legal advisors. As a safeguard, she says, in case she's silenced or sued before the broadcast. She's done playing defense. She's stepping into the spotlight with the calm confidence of someone who knows her story will hold up. And she's daring the world to question it. Meanwhile, Meghan and Harry are locked behind metaphorical and literal walls. There's no red table talk, no Oprah sequel, not even a soft-focus Instagram photo with a cryptic caption. There's just a void, where clarity should be, and that silence, once framed as dignified, now reads as cold, calculated avoidance. And here's what makes it worse. This entire scandal isn't just about 2 famous people under scrutiny. It's about 2 children. Children presented to the world as royal heirs. Children whose birth certificates, titles, and very place in the monarchy are now being publicly questioned. If Meghan and Harry knowingly built their global brand, their Netflix deals, podcast empires, speaking tours, and luxury partnerships on a misdirection as fundamental as the birth of their children, then this isn't just personal. It's historical. The ripple effect is growing by the hour. Royal history is being re-examined. Public trust is plummeting. Political voices are beginning to weigh in. Even tabloids once mocked for wild theories are now being vindicated in real time. And as all this unfolds, the palace is left with a single paralyzing question. What happens if DL is telling the truth? What happens to Archie and Lilibet's titles? What happens to the royal succession? What happens to the monarchy's credibility in a world where secrecy no longer survives a single screenshot? And what happens to Meghan and Harry if it turns out their entire narrative was a carefully curated illusion? Because right now, DL is winning the public's ear, not just with drama, but with detail. She's not emotional. She's methodical. She's not dodging questions. She's inviting them. She's taking the very brand Meghan built, empowerment, truth-telling, womanhood, and flipping it on its head. In doing so, she's hijacked Meghan's narrative and turned it into her own. And that's what stings the most. For 5 years, Meghan and Harry controlled the spotlight. They shaped the narrative, picked the angles, chose when to be vulnerable. But now, the curtain has been ripped open. The lights are on, and the silence they've chosen isn't protecting them anymore. It's accusing them. And unless something changes, unless Meghan and Harry step forward with proof, transparency, or at least truth, then DL's version of events may become the one history remembers. Because in the absence of answers, the public doesn't wait. They decide. And right now, that decision isn't going in Meghan's favor.